She walked into my garage barefoot, bleeding and holding a little boy's hand, like it was the only thing keeping her alive. I thought she was just another broken soul, trying to escape a nightmare. But I had no idea the child beside her was the hidden heir to a billion-dollar empire. And the people chasing them, they would stop at nothing. What started with kindness turned into a war for the truth. Let's begin. I was under the hood of an 006 Silverado when I first saw her. It was almost midnight. The shop was supposed to be closed. But the lights were still on, and I had grease under my nails and enough on my soul to keep me from sleeping. That's when the bell over the bay door gave a weak jingle. I wiped my hands on a rag, annoyed. "We're closed, ma'am." Then I saw her face. Her lip was busted. Her cheekbone was already swelling. The knees of her jeans were torn. And the little boy, clutching her hand, looked like he hadn't had a proper meal in days. He was shaking and barefoot. I didn't say a word. I just stepped aside and pointed to the beat-up couch I use for coffee breaks. She flinched at the gesture. "It's all right," I said softly. "You're safe here. Sit down." She hesitated, but only because her legs were barely holding her up. The moment she sank onto the couch, the boy climbed on her lap and buried his face in her shoulder. I crouched down to their level. "I'm Lucas," I said. "And this ain't a shelter, but no one walks back out of here the way they came in. You want water or food first?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She just whispered, "Water, please, for him." The kid looked about 6. But his eyes were older than mine. I poured 2 glasses and handed one to her and one to the boy, who sipped it like he thought it might disappear if he drank too fast. "What's your name?" I asked her gently. She hesitated, looked at the door, then back at me. "Emily and his." She gripped his hand tighter. "Tyler." The next words she said were so low I almost missed them. They said he wasn't worth carrying anymore. The rag I was holding dropped. She didn't explain further, didn't need to. I've lived enough life to know when someone's been thrown out like trash. "I got a spare room upstairs," I said after a minute. "A real bed. Clean sheets. You're both sleeping there tonight. That all right?" She nodded slowly, like her brain didn't know how to process kindness anymore. As they settled upstairs, I sat in the shop alone. I'd fixed 1,000 broken things in my life, but I'd never seen anything this shattered walk into my garage and still managed to breathe. Whoever hurt them? They'd done it for control. But what they didn't know was that sometimes people find the right hands to fall into. And this time they did. I heard footsteps around 5:30 a.m., light ones. The kind that said someone was trying not to be heard. I walked out into the hall and found little Tyler crouched to the top of the stairs. One hand holding a zipperless backpack, and the other gripping the railing like he was ready to run if I got too close. "Hey, bud," I said quietly, crouching like I was checking a tire. "You hungry?" He didn't answer. He just looked at me, straight through me, with eyes no 6-year-old should ever have. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was like calculation, like he'd already lived through people pretending to be nice and was weighing if I was just another one. I nodded at the bag. "Got something important in there." He clutched it tighter. Emily appeared behind him in the hall, her face pale and worn. "The bruises deeper today." She put a hand on his shoulder and said gently, "Ty, it's okay. Mr. Lucas helped us. We're not in danger here." But Tyler didn't move. He only asked one thing. "Do you have cameras in the garage?" "2. I answered dead honest. "One by the front, one over the tool bench. No audio, just video." "Why?" He looked at his mom, then back at me. "If anyone comes for us, don't turn him off. Emily looked like she just stopped breathing. I didn't press. Instead, I said, "Breakfast will be ready in 10. I got eggs toast and way too much bacon. Hope y'all like bacon." Tyler nodded once. That was the first time he gave me the tiniest sliver of trust. Later that morning, I was patching up the engine of a Ford when Emily came out holding her coffee, like it was an anchor keeping her from floating away. She didn't say much, just stood nearby watching me work. After a while she spoke, voice low and broken. I wasn't supposed to survive leaving him. I didn't look up. I just let her talk. Sometimes that's all people need. I married young. Too young. He was rich and charming in front of others, but cruel when no one was looking. When I got pregnant, his family made it clear, if the baby wasn't a son, I was replaceable. I stopped tightening the bolt. "But you had a son." She laughed bitterly. That didn't matter. Tyler was never good enough for them. Too quiet, too curious. His father said he lacked the instincts to lead, like he was a broken horse or something. I looked over at her. "You know that's not on him. That's on them." She nodded, looking away. "They kicked us out. His father did it himself. At the family estate, so we were a blemish on the bloodline, and you've been running since." She hesitated. "No, I wasn't planning to run. I was planning to disappear, but Tyler begged me to try one more time, and we ended up here." I didn't ask more, but as she turned to go back upstairs, something fell from Tyler's bag, a corner of paper, hand-drawn. I picked it up once they were gone. It was a floor plan, a mansion with circled rooms and security cameras marked in red ink. What kind of 6-year-old draws blueprints? And more importantly, why the hell did this boy look like he was preparing for something? Not running, not hiding, but planning. And then I looked at the name scribbled in the corner. Bell Ridge Estate. I knew that name, and I knew what it meant. Emily wasn't just someone's ex-wife. Tyler wasn't just a mistreated boy. They were part of dynasty, a billion-dollar empire built on corruption and cruelty. And someone had just tossed out their only heir. The day after I found that blueprint, I couldn't stop watching Tyler differently. At first glance, he acted like any kid. Quiet, clingy, always near his mom. But the more time I spent with him, the more I noticed. He fixed a busted toaster in a break room by jamming a bent nail in just the right spot. Didn't say a word. I watched him line up the loose wrenches by size and shape when he thought no one was looking. He even corrected a spark plug diagram I had taped to the wall. I'd gotten it wrong by one wire. He fixed it with a marker. Emily didn't notice. Or maybe she did and didn't want to talk about it. But something was up with that boy. That evening, just as the sun was going down and the garage bathed in golden light, a black Escalade pulled up. The windows were tinted pitch black. Clean. Too clean for this part of town. I stepped outside slowly. A tall man stepped out wearing a crisp gray suit. His shoes alone cost more than my rent. "You Lucas?" he asked, glancing at a photo in his hand. I nodded, cautious. He slid a photo toward me. Emily and Tyler sitting on my garage couch taken from the corner security camera. I froze. "We're looking for them," he said smoothly. "The woman stole something. The child isn't hers. You wouldn't happen to have seen them." I kept my face calm, my voice steady. "No, can't say I have." He stared at me hard, then leaned in slightly. "You sure, sir? Harboring them could get you into real trouble. Federal trouble." "I fix cars," I said flatly. "Not fugitives." He smiled tight and fake. "If you see them, call this number." Then he got back in the SUV and drove off like smoke in the wind. The moment the vehicle disappeared, I locked the garage, double-bolted the back, and rushed upstairs. Emily was pacing in the hallway, pale as a ghost. Tyler was standing in the doorway behind her, staring at me. "You saw him?" she whispered. I nodded. He had photos from my camera. He knew your names. She sank into the stairwell and buried her face in her hands. "They found us." "Who is he?" I asked. "Don't lie to me." She looked up slowly. "My ex's family. They don't care about me, but they care about controlling everything tied to the Bell Ridge legacy." My chest tightened. "The boy is his son," she said, voice trembling. "But the family won't acknowledge him because he was born with something they didn't like." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked down the hallway. "Tyler has Asperger's. He's on the spectrum. Brilliant, gentle, too sensitive for them. They thought he'd be weak. But when they realized he was different, they declared he was unfit to inherit. Said he was a liability to their name." My jaw clenched. "And now they found out he's the last legal heir to the Billionaire Trust," she said, her voice cracking. "The only one. Everyone else's stakes are locked, and unless he's dead or declared unfit, he inherits everything." At age 7, Tyler was 6, and he was already planning. That blueprint wasn't a game. It was his way of remembering and surviving. But what chilled me most wasn't that his life was in danger. It was the way he looked at me now. No longer scared, but ready, like he had a plan, and I was in it. Tyler didn't talk much, but when he did, you'd better listen. That morning, we were sitting at the chip table in the corner of the garage kitchen. Me with a cup of black coffee. Emily trying to eat toast without looking like her stomach was eating itself. And Tyler, quiet as always, fidgeting with a butter knife. He passed me a folded napkin under the table, didn't say a word. I opened it. Inside were 4 words written in small, neat letters. "They'll come at night." I looked up at him slowly. He just sipped his orange juice like nothing happened. Emily didn't notice. She was still trembling from everything. But Tyler, he was watching the door, counting seconds between the sound of tires on the street and the barking of dogs outside. I folded the napkin, slid it into my back pocket, and nodded once. "I'll handle it," I whispered. He blinked. Just once. That was his way of saying he believed me. That night, I stayed awake in the garage. Emily and Tyler were upstairs in the room I used to store tires and winter coats. Now, converted into a bedroom with a space heater and blankets from the thrift store. I had the lights off, wrench in one hand, pipe in the other. Around 2:13 a.m., headlights rolled past the shop real slow. Didn't stop, didn't speed up, just watched. They came back at 3:07, but I didn't move. They want to see if someone would panic, turn on lights, peek through curtains. I didn't give them anything. At sunrise, I made a decision. I walked up to Emily while she was folding sheets. "We're not hiding anymore," I said. "They want to play dirty. Let's go clean." She looked exhausted. "Lucas, what do you mean?" "I mean, we take control. We don't run." Tyler poked his head out from behind her, hopeful. "You mean the lawyer?" I froze. "What lawyer?" Tyler looked at his mom. "You didn't tell him." Emily sighed. "There's a lawyer, one my mother trusted. He was once a Billionaire family advisor, but he quit after a falling out over how they treated Tyler. I have his number. I've just never had the courage to call." I held out my hand. "Give me the number." She hesitated, then handed me a crumpled card from the bottom of her bag. 3 hours later, we were sitting in a diner across from a man in his 70s named Walter Kane. Sharp suit, shrewd eyes, and the kind of quiet rage you only see in someone who's seen too much betrayal. "I always knew they'd come after the boy," he said, sipping black tea. "They tried to erase every trace of his name, but I made sure to lock the estate's shares under a clause. Tyler turns 7 in 2 weeks. When he does, he inherits everything, Emily whispered. Can't they stop it? Walter smirked. Only one way. They need him declared unfit. We're gone? I gritted my teeth. So we make it public, I said. Expose everything. Get ahead of them. Make it too messy for them to make a move. Walter looked at me carefully. You're a mechanic. Why are you in this? I glanced at Tyler, who was sitting across the table with his hands in his lap. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe because someone needed to give this kid one honest break. And maybe I'm just tired of seeing good people crushed by powerful ones. Walter nodded slowly. That's enough. The plan was simple. Go back, step into the lion's den. Let them see Tyler. Let them see he's not weak, not broken, and certainly not gone. But before we could do that, they found us. And they weren't planning to talk. They came at dawn. Not with guns, not with noise, but with silence. 3 black SUVs pulled into the garage lot just after sunrise. No screeching tires, no flashing lights. Just 3 quiet engines idling like vultures, waiting for something to die. Emily grabbed Tyler and backed in the stairwell. But I stepped out into the driveway before they could reach the door. A man in a grey blazer stepped forward. Older, clean-shaven. Cold eyes, Lucas Harland. Yeah, I said, staring him down. You're trespassing. We have legal orders to retrieve Mrs. Emily Bellidge and a minor in her care. I didn't flinch. They're not your property. The man's lip curled into a faint smirk. She took the child unlawfully. He belongs to the Bell Ridge estate. You really saying that? I snapped. You're calling a human being an asset. He's blood, the man said coldly, and blood comes home. They didn't give us a choice. They have forged papers, threats of court injunctions, even a uniformed officer in the back seat. Fake or not, I couldn't win in that moment without putting Emily and Tyler in more danger. Emily was trembling. Tyler held her hand but didn't say a word. I leaned down to him. Do you trust me, Ty? He nodded once, slow and sure. Then go with him, I said. But don't forget what we talked about. His grip tightened on my fingers. You'll come. I squeezed back soon. They took them in the middle SUV. I followed on my bike, far enough not to be stopped, close enough to watch. They didn't take them to a station or a courthouse. They took them straight to the Bell Ridge family estate. A 30-room compound behind wrought iron gates, sitting like a snake on top of the hills outside of town. I parked in a woods behind the service entrance and waited. It took hours. And I got the call from Walter Kane. I got the documents, he said. Proof of inheritance, copies of the will, audio recordings from when they threatened to disown the boy. And I'm about to do a press leak. But Tyler, he needs to speak. He doesn't talk in crowds, I said, pacing. He barely talks at all. Then someone needs to stand with him, Walter said, and not flinch. I made my way in through the back, past the old servants' entrance. Half of it crumbled with age, still never repaired, just like their morals. The main hall of the Bell Ridge estate was filled with gold and silence. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, velvet chairs, and at the center, seated like kings, were the family. Elliot Bellridge, the father, grey hair, 5,000 suit, dead eyes. Beside him, his older daughter, Clarissa, a viper in lipstick. The rest were extended relatives and lawyers in tailored suits. No kindness in that room, just calculation. Emily stood to the side, eyes red, lip trembling. And Tyler stood in front of them alone, his backpack in his hands. Say something. Elliot snapped. You're old enough to understand what's being asked. Do you want this name or not? Tyler didn't speak. Clarissa sneered. He's mute. Unfit. You drag us here for this. Tyler blinked once, then calmly opened his backpack, pulled out 4 sheets of paper. each with one handwritten paragraph. He handed one to each board member seated behind the family. Then he handed the final one to Elliot. I could see Elliot's face changed the moment he read the words. His mouth twitched. His hand began to tremble. Tyler turned around, saw me in the back, then he spoke loud, clear, every word like glass cutting through the silence. "I remember what you said," Tyler said, looking directly at his grandfather. "You said I was a mistake, that I'd ruin everything, that I wasn't worth being born. But you were wrong." Dead silence. Even Clarissa's smile dropped. "I'm not a mistake," Tyler continued. "I'm your legacy, and I forgive you. But I won't be your puppet." Walter stepped forward and placed a folder on the long mahogany table. "Inheritance confirmed. Trust irrevocable. Tyler Belledge becomes the sole primary shareholder in 2 weeks. Unless," he said, glancing at Elliot, "you'd like to explain this audio recording to the press." Elliot was shaking now. The room felt like it was tilting. Tyler turned to me. "Can we go home now?" I walked forward, put my hand on his shoulder. "You already are, kid." 2 months later, the garage is busier than ever. People from all over town stop by. Someone oil changes. Someone to shake hands with a kid who stood up to a $1 billion dynasty with nothing but a backpack and a heart full of truth. Emily works the books now, smiling. Whole healing Tyler. He still doesn't say much, but when he speaks, people listen. And every time he walks into the shop, he makes sure to leave his backpack on the table and say the same thing. "Let's fix what's broken."